Welcome to the Service Impact Podcast, where we discuss the marketing things that matter for service businesses. And on today's episode, we are going to be talking about analytics for service businesses. So there's a lot of businesses out there that do great with this part of their business. They've got their analytics set up correctly, maybe, and they're paying attention. Congratulations. You're doing better than 80% of the companies out there. And if this is you, I'm sorry if this podcast is too remedial, but you'd be very surprised at how many companies are not paying attention to this. They don't have it. They don't even know they're supposed to have it. And they've probably had companies tell them, oh, don't worry about it. We got you covered. As far as I'm concerned, analytics may be the most important part of a company's marketing. And I get it. It's not cool like branding or ads or SEO. But it is what tells you whether any of these channels are working for a business. So let's get into it. Google Analytics, or GA4, is free, and you need to own your own account. There is no reason not to have it. It's a business standard, and anyone experienced in digital marketing is going to be very familiar with it. And they're going to be able to work with it over time and add to your understanding of your business. I mean, that's the whole point of it, is to accumulate data that is going to provide you with insights in how to better market your company. And yes, even this aspect of analyzing the data is becoming more evolved as we add AI to it, and which allows us even more in-depth opportunities. And who knows where that's headed. So you've got to have your data. So whether you're in-house and running the show or you're working with an agency, Google Analytics is not an option. It's an absolute must. If you're on your own and are just discovering this tool, I would highly recommend that you get some help and get it set up correctly. It will be absolutely worth it. And for those of you that are on your own, I mean, you don't need to know everything, okay? I don't know everything. Nobody that works on our team knows everything. It's really impossible to be an expert at everything, which is why we've got different team members. Figure out what you're an expert at and do that, and then get some help, get some outside agency help with the parts of the business that you guys don't have that expertise internally, okay? I just said it. I think some people think that they're supposed to know all this stuff, and it's like, yeah, you should know that you need Google Analytics, but as far as how to set it up and get all the conversions to work correctly and across all the channels, no, that's kind of a specialty. So if your marketing company is not using your Google Analytics for your marketing efforts, that is an absolute huge no-no. It is a big red flag. And I would get that straightened out right away and also be asking why they weren't using it. You'll need to decide. But for me, if a company doesn't have the competency or the respect to know that this is best practice, they probably shouldn't be running your marketing program. So this is something that we see it's a very common deal where companies will kind of be like, no, we got it, and here's your report, and it's cool. But the truth is if you want these pretty reports with lots of color and cool insight, there's this tool called Looker that will work with Google Analytics to create these dashboards. And it's also free, just like Google. And Google owns the tool. So it actually works really well together. And for any agency using a proprietary dashboard, they're just pulling the information from Google Analytics in the same manner. So there's really nothing proprietary about it. I mean, I guess you could call a dashboard proprietary. But where the data is originating is still originating from Google Analytics. And it's really important as a company that you have this, that you own it and you maintain your autonomy. And by owning it, you're able to move on from the agency you're with. You're able to move on from employees that you may, or they move on from you or whatever. But your data remains no matter who is working on these accounts. And you should have that autonomy. That's absolutely healthy. There shouldn't be any handcuffs with a good relationship. And an agency should be a guest in your analytics account. All the work remains in your account. Should they or decide to move on, or you decide to get rid of them, you paid for it. You paid for the work, and you should be able to retain the information. This is healthy, and I can't believe, honestly, that I'm even talking about this, except this is a real thing out there, and we have seen it a ton. So Google Analytics is going to allow you to see the traffic and demographic information, but it's also going to be able to measure the efficacy of your channels. How are your search ads, social ads, SEO, organic social, and email marketing working for you? You'll be able to see all of this traffic, plus any key events or leads that have been generated. So key events, you'll hear some of us old people call them conversions. They're now called key events. I'll slip and call them conversions too. But basically, it's a lead that originates, at least for us. Other people, I've seen other people define them differently, but it's an engagement action, whether it's a phone call or whether it's a form fill, and we live on that metric. It's like, how many key events did we get? That is a big deal. So does all the work that we're spending on these different channels, emails, every month generate leads? Is our SEO helping? Does social media posting make us any money? And this is amazingly helpful information, and it should be embraced, good or bad. So there are so many ways that you can view analytics, but for me, there are two reports that I go to repeatedly. And the first is the actual acquisition report, which tells us where the website traffic originates from. I can see every channel and how many key events or conversions have happened. It's also easy to compare periods from the preceding time frame, whether it be the previous month or year-over-year data. So the other report is found in the advertising area, but allows you to see all sorts of things, and that's the attribution path report. And in other words, how does your digital ecosystem connect? How is it attributed? Yes, you have a digital ecosystem. It may not be complete, but you have one, and you can see how your customers engage with your ecosystem before they call or email you. You'll see it here, and you'll hear me talk about it a lot, because ecosystems are actually it's really how we should be looking at our marketing, at our digital marketing. And if you haven't ever considered that you have a digital ecosystem, take one look at this report and you will go, oh my gosh, this is all connected. So let's look at an acquisition report, and I'm looking at the attribution data for a service company right now, and I'm staring at it as I'm putting this together. Their ecosystem is pretty well developed. They had 1,485 phone calls or form fills in the last 30 days. On average, it takes 3.77 days for a key event and 1.96 touch points, so nearly 2 pages to get a key event. Their top channels are cross-network, paid social, organic search, paid search, and of the 1,485 key events, there are 113 different conversion paths. And a conversion path is a combination of events. I'll repeat. Of the 1,485 key events of this company that I'm looking at, there are 113 15 different combinations of events that led to that phone call or email. So if you've never considered attribution, if you've never considered an ecosystem, this is what I'm talking about. Is like there's all these different routes that clients will take in their journey for you. So this is really powerful information. And assuming that the cost per acquisition is right, this sort of information would be very validating. In other words, for this particular company, they spend a lot of money on ads. They've spent time and money developing their organic search. And if I were, looking at this as a CEO of a company or an owner of a company, I'd say, wow, all of this stuff is cooking. It's working all together. It's exactly like we imagined. And you can see, and I can't show you this data, obviously, but some channels are going to be more powerful than others. And I'm going to want to make sure that the ones that are like way better are getting me all my leads are optimized for sure. And I'm going to probably want to, maybe modify my spending resources or my efforts in order to go like, hey, this seems to be more important than this part of our marketing program. And without your analytics, you just wouldn't have any of this information. You wouldn't have the validation. And if this was all bunk and bad, you also wouldn't have that understanding. So again, remember in the beginning, I said good or bad. They're both useful. And bad getting bad results like, hey, this isn't working. Thank God you know that. So but there's one thing that has to happen in order for this all to work. And that is that you've got to have a person or a partner digging into this data and asking the questions of the content team and the ads team and the SEO and the, everything that's being done. You need someone with their hands on the wheel, and preferably somebody who understands what's going on is connected to the overall marketing strategy. And so this can be a person within the company that is directing the marketing efforts. This can be an agency, or it can be both. The point is, if it doesn't get measured, it doesn't get improved, adjusted, or even considered. So having a person or team looking at this stuff is critical. And there's another aspect of it that needs to be a part of the process, and it's the validation of your perceived success. It's like you need to be able to make sure you're checking with your sales team or other people in charge of working with your leads. I mean, you can't just go, oh, okay, we're generating all these leads and conversions, key events, but then you're not reaching across the aisle and going, hey, sales team, how's this going? What's the quality of our leads? How are we actually getting these guys over the line in the sales process? If you're hearing back like, yeah, they're not really qualified, they're not good, blah, 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 blah. That's important information that you can then go back to your strategy and to some of the things that you're doing tactically and get those things right. I mean, that's just like, that's people actually wanting to do well, but all the way through the finish line, not just going, oh, we've got the numbers, and oh, we've got the impressions and we've got this. And it's like, look how good we are. And it's like, gosh, are you really? But again, this is connected to having somebody with their hands on the wheel, whether it's a agency or team member or whatever. It's somebody that's connected to the strategy, but also connected to the sales. And because sales are the point. In other words, marketing for the sake of marketing is not the point. I think so often marketing teams can just be like, yeah, we're doing great, and this is what we're doing, and look at what we did and look at this campaign. And the sales team sitting over there going, none of this stuff's doing anything for us. So, there shouldn't be that disconnect. But there is, and it's very common. So there is no bad information. As we're leaning into analytics and we're making it a driver in our strategies, in our tactics, the only bad information is no information. That is bad, okay? It allows us to be proactive in adjusting our marketing and allowing us to reroute when things aren't good, but it allows us to reroute and to reevaluate when things are good. And it's like, okay, is this concoction, is this portfolio that we've got together, is this still right? Is this 60-40 equity to bonds still right? Or have we learned some additional information that says, maybe a slightly different strategy is going to be better for us? So good or bad, the company will be better for it if that's, if that's embraced. Because thank God that we found out that the campaign that we had for our client didn't work, because we're not doing that again. And we're not going to try to do anything like it again, because it wasn't effective. It didn't get us the outcome that we wanted. And, it totally sucks, but at least and at least you can be honest about, that not working. Because if you're in marketing and you're trying to do things well, you know what? You're going to have some misses. And that's just going to be the way it is. And so embracing the good, embracing the bad. But I say this to say, you have to embrace, you have to actually do it. You have to actually have analytics. And, for this particular company that, they've been doing it this way forever, it really didn't work. I mean, they got business from other channels, reputation, brand, whatever, but their efforts otherwise weren't working. I mean, if that's been going on for years, wouldn't that be good to know? Wouldn't you rather have adjusted your spend, your budget to areas that are going to yield returns? So embrace your analytics and watch what happens. It can really be transformative. So to recap, make sure you have good analytics. Make sure you have analytics, and then make sure you have good analytics, and make sure you own them, because you need to have that autonomy. And make sure that somebody has their hands on the wheel and is paying attention so the strategies can be modified and or leaned into if they're working. And then validate your analytics with your sales team. Make sure that you have ongoing conversations with the guys and gals that are out there in the field, whether they're in-house or out of house on the ground. Make sure that there's a communication, an active communication that's happening. And finally, embrace your success and your failure, because it's going to make your company so much better. There's no doubt about it. Thanks for listening. I hope this was helpful. You can find the Service Impact Podcast at any of your favorite podcasting platforms. You can also find podcast archives and summaries at serviceimpact.com.